Hello everyone and welcome to Meet the Employer. Thank you all very much for joining us. I'm your host, Rosa B. So today we actually have HMRC joining us. But before we get started, I just wanted to introduce a few people to you. And that's first of all, a big thank you to Anna and Carleen, who are doing our BSL today, and also Tara, who's doing closed captions. So ladies, thank you very much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. So we are meeting HMRC. There will be an opportunity for you to get involved in the conversation because we will have a chat box open, but also we will have a formal Q&A session towards the end. So, it's your opportunity to meet HMRC and ask those all important questions. So please feel free to do so. Just wanting to check and make sure that our closed captions is working. Everything's okay? Great. All right, so Meet the Employer is part of a series of webinars that we deliver for our Hive, which is a 24/7 accessible site that's stacked full of tools, advice, and information. So we've got lots of other Meet the Employer webinars, so feel free to go on to our Hive and check it out. This webinar is going to be recorded and it will be made available for the Hive, but you are not being recorded, so don't worry. So why don't we get started? So it's HMRC today, and I would like to welcome Morgan, Ian, Anne-Marie, and Kulvinder. Thank you all very much for taking the time out to join us today. What I would like to do is if you could all just introduce yourself, your role, and why you're here today, and then we'll get started. So Ian, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're here today.
Thanks, Rosa. Hi, everybody. So my name's Ian Ramsey, and I work in the HR team, the Equality, Diversity, Inclusion team. And I've got lead responsibility for disability. So I'm here today I've got lead responsibility, but I'm passionate about improving the lived experience of disabled people who work in HMRC, but also about ensuring that we reflect the society that we serve as a big organisation. And I wanted to be here to participate in that. So thanks, Rosa.
Fantastic, thank you. Why don't we move to Morgan? Morgan, would you like to introduce yourself, your role, and why you're here today?
Thank you, Rosie. Yeah, hi, hello everyone. Very nice to virtually meet you. My name is Morgan Kim. I work in the talent acquisition team. I lead the specialist resourcing function there. And the reason I'm here is to give a perspective in terms of what the recruitment processes look like, what we do, all the different options that are available, and also give a little bit more information about what it's like to work in HMRC and the different professions and careers that we offer.
Brilliant. And I am sure quite a lot of our Even Break candidates and job seekers will have a few questions that they might want to ask you because you're so close to the recruitment. I'd like to go on to Anne-Marie. Anne-Marie, would you like to introduce yourself, your role, and why you're here today?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Anne-Marie Ward, and I'm a Capability Officer for Operational Excellence, which is one of the business areas within HMRC. I'll be here today to share my lived experience. So I have a number of hidden disabilities and conditions. So I'll be here to share, what the adjustments and what it's like working in HMRC with a disability. Thank you.
Great. We look forward to hearing about your lived experience, Anne-Marie. I can't wait to hear your story. Kulvinder, would you like to introduce yourself and your role, why you're here today?
Hello, Rosa. So yes, I'm Kulvinder, and I also work in the EDI team, in the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion team with Ian, and I have the role of subject matter expert in HMRC for disability. So I'm really happy to be here today to be able to explain what this is about as well, and talk about the opportunities available and how everyone's development can be so positively impacted by this. And this is something very close to my heart. Really happy to be here. Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, for everyone, you probably know that HMRC, or the UK's Tax Payment and Customs Authority, their primary role is to collect the money that keeps the country running, right? So there are around 66,000 workers, making them one of the biggest government departments and employers in the UK. They touch the lives of everyone in the country. So the money that they collect pays for our vital services, our hospitals, our emergency services, our armed forces, but they also administer payments for families who need them. It's not all about tax though, because they have 24 professions. So HMRC have roles that can suit most people. If you think about it, they're an organization just like everyone else. So no matter what their background or experience, there is lots of opportunities. In fact, if you go on to the Even Break job site, you'll see a range of those opportunities right now. So you will find a variety of jobs from contract center consultants to fraud investigators, data analysts, through to HR advisors, just to name a few. HMRC takes great pride in being a diverse and inclusive organisation where people can feel comfortable being themselves at work, no matter their background. So that leads us in nicely to our first question. And I'm going to start with you, Ian, if that's okay. Is that all right? Ian, yeah. Why is recruiting disabled candidates important to HMRC? Can you explain that to us?
I can, Rosa. Thanks very much for that. Really insightful question. And as you've said, HMRC is a really big organisation. 66,000 people work in HMRC up and down the country as well, in the regional hubs we've got. And 1 in 5 people in the UK have a disability. And to be true to society and to be true to the beliefs of certainly the government and what we want as an inclusive employer, we want to reflect the society that we serve. So we want to recruit in disabled people into our organisation. So if you think about obviously the maths there, 1 in 5 people, and the big number of individuals we've got in HMRC, we would want to be recruiting in a number of individuals, thousands of individuals who have a disability. And I think that's really, really important to us because it provides insight into their lived experience, insight into our customer experience as well, and what we need to do to better serve our customers. And that's been really useful recently as well, over the last few months, or last 18 months, when we've been working at home a lot of the civil service. And a lot of our disabled colleagues have been able to provide us with insights in their experiences about what it's like working from home, the worries as well and challenges they've got in getting into offices. So the organisation and the workforce will have, and having that experiential and insight is really, really important to us as well. And I think in relation to, another kind of aspect is the talent. We've been doing a lot of work within HMRC around disability, and certainly over the past 12 months, a lot of colleagues, an example, with neurodivergent conditions, we've been doing a lot of research to understand what kind of roles they can do in the organisation, so more analytical roles. So bringing in that talent is really important to us, and recognising that disabled colleagues have got a lot to offer for HMRC. And as well, research shows that disabled people are much likely to be more loyal to an organisation and stay with an organisation for a longer period of time. So those are some of the important aspects that we are looking at, and why we want to attract more disabled people to come to work for HMRC.
Fantastic, thank you, Ian. I'm going to stay with you if that's okay, just for a little longer. I have another question here for you, and I wanted to ask, how embedded in your culture is this belief?
Thanks, Rosa. What I'm going to do, I think it is really embedded, but I'm going to bring Kulvinder on our team as well, just to bring in some her answer in a different perspective.
Hi. So yes, so it's very embedded. So we work with our disability staff network, and we're improving messaging all the time. We use Yammer, and we use the intranet page as well. So during the last couple of weeks, we've had Disability Awareness Week, where we've had a number of different types of events and sessions and talks talking about the brilliant work that's been going on within HMRC. And what we do is we work towards the social model of disability, and with that is the use of language and the importance of the type of language that we use, and make sure that it's inclusive and people don't feel that something is wrong with them. It's actually the barriers are how society proves to be a barrier, and that's how they feel as disabled. So with this, we are absolutely committed to removing those barriers. And in doing so, we provide assistive technology and workplace adjustments and flexible working. There are many, many aspects to being able to welcome new entrants into this organisation.
Excellent, thank you. Kulvinder, I noticed you used the word some of the brilliant work that HMRC have delivered in this space. Can you share with us or provide some examples of the brilliant work in terms of inclusivity within HMRC with us today?
Yes, so first of all, we had very recently, we had an accessibility innovation event where we looked at how assistive technology can be used more widely and to be used more innovatively. So an event was held, and a Dragon's Den event was held from as an outcome of that, where ideas from 4 different sections, from our sight community, our hearing impaired community, deaf community, neurodiversity, and I think there was one other which I can't remember right now, but those were presented to our executive committee, and those ideas have all been taken forward to improve upon the already very good assistive technology that is available for our employees, our current employees. We are using British Sign Language for all our live broadcasts as well, and we have a brilliant occupational health system as well. So all those types of things are there to be able to support and make sure that we are able to bring out the best of our employees with business delivery, as well as supporting them holistically.
Mm-hmm. And it's excellent to hear, because it seems from what you've been saying as well that building knowledge and awareness across the organisation is really vital and critical. Could you talk to us a little bit about that, please?
Yes, so there's a big culture change that's happening, and through our Respect at Work programme, we are looking at improving all of those things with that culture change. So there are many aspects to this. And with regard to that, we're also looking at the inclusive design of regional centres, because those are our offices now, bigger offices than they used to be, and making sure that we're being able to improve the actual office environment. And many people have been working from home during the pandemic, and now it's time for people to be going back and that hybrid working, and whether those buildings are suitably equipped. So for our neurodiverse colleagues, we have a different type of desk, and they're not all white desks, because originally that's how they were planned. And our estates colleagues, our digital colleagues, they're all working very hard to be able to make sure that they're welcoming people so that they feel more comfortable in those offices. Excellent,
thank you. I'd like to switch across now to Morgan. Morgan, I've got a few questions to ask you, because I want to sit with you for a little while. Is HMRC just for people interested in a career in tax?
No, not at all. And I think you and Ian touched on this earlier by mentioning, for example, there's 24 professions, but there's also countless different career paths available to people in HMRC and indeed the wider civil service. And in fact, that's probably one of our very unique selling points that we have as an organisation, in that we offer a significant amount of support and development opportunities to be able to flip between different professions, different roles, different organisations. There's learn and comment opportunities, basically, and we're very accommodating of developing people to the point where they want to stay in the organisation, but also move to other organisations to share that knowledge around working towards a one civil service model. So in answer to your question, no, it's categorically not just for people who are looking for a career in tax, but if you are, then there are a lot of different options that you can find to move into tax. We have things such as the Tax Academy, and there's training programs, there's graduate programs. Some of those programs are not just tax as well. We have things called the Fast Stream Development Program, which covers a whole range of different professions, and that's a Cabinet Office centralised program which does place people in HMRC. We're signing up to we're a member of the Apprenticeship Levy, Fast Track Apprenticeship Scheme. I appreciate I'm just throwing out random schemes that probably mean nothing. But if you are interested in a career within HMRC or the civil service, I strongly advise just Googling all the different career options, and it will give you a whole host of different things, because there's far too many to list here in this session without overwhelming everyone.
Absolutely. Or, just have a look at the Even Break job search site. I was looking at that this morning. There's such a wide variety of opportunities that are available. So I really do appreciate you sharing that with us. Okay, I'll stay with you again for a while. What does your recruitment process look like? Is it the same for all roles, or does it vary dependent on the role? Can you explain it to us, please, Morgan?
Yes, so it varies dependent on the role. But one thing which is the same is that all applications are done anonymously. So when your application is submitted, no one sees your name or any personal information relating to demographics or school you went to or universities or anything like that. It's all done just on a text-based process. So basically only assessing what's needed to know. But in terms of the actual process, so and again, this is where I'd advise if people sign up for something called civil service jobs, and that's where the whole bank of jobs are advertised, including HMRC. And on there, you'll be able to see, again, all the range of different roles that we have available. But in terms of the actual process, some of the roles require tests to complete. We try and limit these tests, and I'll come to reasonable adjustments in a moment, because I'm sure that's going to be a question. But those assessments and tests that we have are, as far as possible, connected strongly to the role. So we wouldn't want to put people through doing a verbal reasoning or numerical reasoning test just for the sake of it, unless that role actually requires those skills. So there's other tests such as communications tests, if it's a communications role that you're moving into, for example, or perhaps a light touch analyst test, again, if you're looking for that type of role. So some roles do have those tests. That's done to ensure that we get candidates with the right skills applying. And then after that stage, if that's included, and I think probably around 20% of roles have those sorts of tests. And I know that can sound daunting to put people off, but it's not intended to. They're not intended for that purpose. There is then the full application process, whereby you'd be asked to either complete a whole range of things, such as supplying CV information. Again, it's anonymized CV information, so just for the actual court of what you've done. Usually that dates back to 2 years, so you have to know more than 2 years, and that's to avoid any kind of unconscious bias made about gaps or anything else, or previous roles or professions that people might have done and they think that might impact. Sometimes you can be asked to list your experience. You can be asked to complete what's called a statement of suitability, which is almost like a personal statement saying why you're suitable for the role. You could be asked to talk about a behaviour. So we have the civil service behaviours, and they come under a whole host of different things, such as leading and communicating, seeing the bigger picture. All of those are available on the civil service site to see exactly what they mean. You could be asked a question to answer, so tell us about a time when. It really depends on the role. There is a whole host of different processes available, but the underlying process is that it's anonymised, and to minimise the amount of bias that could potentially happen from the application process.
Yes, I mean, I do want to ask you about adjustments, but I know that the public sector is very excellent at in its communication in terms of its transparency with regards to its process. The information that you give to those that are successful from application through to interview stage, it's very, very transparent, and you give all the information up front, including what are the behaviours that you're going to be looking for that particular role. So it's really important that the candidates read through all of that information that's been sent to them, because it's been sent to them for a specific reason. It's just so that they understand your interview format and what you may be looking for in the interview. Can you talk to that a little bit more, please?
Yeah, so that's a good point, actually, Rosa. So yes, from being in recruitment and resourcing myself, this is one of the areas we see where people sort of fall down. They try and second guess. They try and think, I'm going to include X, Y, Z in my statement, and usually the statement is limited to a word count. What it always is, that could be 500, 750, or 1,000. Probably 1,250 is the maximum that we'd ask candidates to write. But the information that we're asking you is what we want you to put in there. There's no trick questions. There's no hidden bit. There's no, we're looking for a certain type of culture fit. It's specifically based on the right candidate who's got the skills, the experience, the capabilities, whatever we're looking for that role. and it's important that that's adhered to. And in terms of the actual process, in terms of assessment, it's always assessed. Every application is assessed, as I said, anonymously by a panel. That panel has numerous different people on it. There's always at least one independent person. Independent means someone who's completely outside of the team. That's to avoid that kind of looking for a certain cultural fit, or maybe someone happens to know someone on the team, all that sort of things, to avoid anything like that. And that's the same at interview as well. It's the same panel, so it's to ensure that that fairness and transparency runs all the way through, and that you're only assessed on what's asked for at the interview. We are governed by the Civil Service Commission. They do audit us, as they do with all government departments, and they do take this quite seriously. So if, for example, we were to ask a candidate to do something and then it turned out that was a mistake and we didn't need it, we would get what we call a breach for that. And if you get a number of breaches, you get a fine. It might sound strange to say, but we get sort of held to account. But we also have a recruitment report and review that's done every year, and that notifies the department of any breaches. And for us, it's very, very low. So out of, I think it's 9,000 something recruitment campaigns that took place last year, there were only 2 breaches, and they were quite minor breaches. Obviously, 2 is too many, but we're held to account to that extent. That we, to make sure that the processes are followed fully, and that we avoid any kind of candidates feeling that there isn't a fair process that they've been through, or that they've been asked to do something they shouldn't have done.
Okay, so I do want to ask you about adjustments, and I think you're expecting this one, right?
Yes.
What adjustments can be made within your recruitment and hiring process if needed? And I know that disability is very diverse, but can you just step us through that and maybe give us some examples?
Yes. So as you say, it is such a diverse area. There isn't a clear answer because it really depends on what the adjustments are, and we are very, very accommodating. So there should be no anxiety around, I can't ask for this because it's it might be seen as unrealistic. It wouldn't be. We really would accommodate everything we possibly can. So I'd encourage everyone who needs an adjustment to ask, because it won't go against you. It's all private. It's not going to be seen as any kind of indicator for your role. And I know Anne-Marie is going to talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But in terms of the adjustments that we can offer, so I mentioned the assessments and tests that we sometimes have for roles. If, for example, someone had a certain level of neurodiversity that meant that they may become anxious within those tests and they need extra time, we can offer extra time. There's even the option of bypassing those tests entirely if that individual might need a reasonable adjustment on that basis. What happens when you apply is you're asked if you feel that under the Equalities Act you would be suitable for something called the Disability Confidence Scheme. There's a lot of information about what that means, and the Disability Confidence Scheme basically means that if you have a recognised disability, it's kind of like a guaranteed interview scheme, but you get a guaranteed interview if you meet the minimum criteria. I think that's where the confusion comes in. So you do feel that you are eligible under the Disability Confidence Scheme, and you selected that box to say yes, that would be personal to you, so no one would see, it wouldn't flag anything, it would be no indicator. But what it does mean is if you meet the minimum benchmark required for a role, then you would get an interview regardless of how other people scored. And that is to increase our demographic diversity in the disability area, but also to recognising that there are disabilities that people may know about or may not know about, but also there's an anxiety around people feeling that if they declare their disability, that's going to go against them. So it's to minimise any of that type of bias. Other reasonable adjustments that we can offer are if someone needs extra time in an interview, if someone needs questions provided beforehand in an interview, accessibility. Basically, as much as we possibly can, we would do. I find it very unlikely that we'd say no to a request without strongly considering it first and saying, no, is there a real reason why we can't adhere to this reasonable adjustment? And that's what we do. And likewise, when you are in a role as well, those reasonable adjustments are taken just as seriously when you're in the department, and you can get the support that you need to help you have an inclusive and conducive working environment. And Anne-Marie will talk.
Great, thank you. You've explained that really clearly. So I hope everyone out there who's listening, take that box. It's okay to disclose, because the recruitment team at HMRC really want you to thrive and be at your best right throughout their hiring process, right, Morgan? So, yeah. And obviously you're there to accommodate, but it's also really important, you know, that the candidate or the job seeker when they're applying lets you also know what accommodations they may need in order to help them thrive at that interview stage if they're successful in moving forward. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. And I do know that some people have an anxiety around, you know, declaring if they have a disability, it'll go against them, or that it'll be raised in a way that's going to look negative. It categorically isn't. And I know that's, you know, that's easier said than done until you go through that. Sometimes you can feel, well, you know, you're going to say that, but genuinely it is. And it, you know, it's done in a very personal and sensitive way that it doesn't follow through in any sense that will make anyone feel uncomfortable or draw attention to that. It's done in that type of ethical sense.
Fantastic. Okay, what I'd like to do now is I would like to move across to Anne-Marie. Anne-Marie, can you please share your lived experience with us? I know that you want to tell us a story or two about your lived experience and what it's meant for you in the workplace.
Brilliant, thanks, Rosie. Yeah, the first thing I do want to do is be quite open and honest about the conditions that I have, because it just does give a bit of context throughout my story. So if you read my medical records, it would have on, I have fibromyalgia, I've got arthritis, I've got osteoarthritis, I've got cervical spinal stenosis, I've got stage 2 chronic kidney disease, I suffer from anxiety and depression, and I've got a dysfunctional uterus. And all of these I do get support for, which I will talk about, but I just really wanted to highlight I'm quite a complex case. It's not an easy one, and I do get that support. But it always hasn't been like that before HMRC. Just to give you a bit of background as well, I taught for 10 years, and because of my conditions and the nature of the conditions, you know, having flare-ups and getting worse, I lost that job. You know, and they didn't directly link it to my conditions, but you know, you get that feeling yourself that it was, and I was, you know, gradually pushed out of that role. So when you've had that experience, it is a really negative experience to go through. It's not nice at all, and that does stay with you for a while. So obviously I lost that job. I needed to find another job quite quickly. You know, I had children, I had mortgage to pay, I needed to pay for my car because that was the only way that I could get around. So I did see the role advertised for HMRC, something that I hadn't done before, a 6-month contract. So I applied for the job, and it had that tick on the bottom, the disability confident. Did I take it? No, at the time, I'll be totally honest with you, I didn't take it. I was terrified to take that because of my experiences. Did I share at the interview any adjustments I needed? Did I share anything about my conditions? No, again, to be totally honest, I didn't, because I thought, you know, as soon as I share those experiences, that's me, I'm out the door. Now, you will find out later in my story that, you know, that wasn't what it should have been. I should have shared straight away. But even for the first few months in my role, I was still quite scared of, you know, if I told my manager all these, you know, the list of conditions that I've just told you, he'll want to run a mile. And that's how I felt. Now, that wasn't down to anything HMRC did. That was me bringing my experience from that other role, which for me, you know, I shouldn't have done, but it's easy said than done. So, you know, due to the nature of the illness, I ended up in hospital quite a bit. I had some flare-ups. So, you know, I did have to start sharing. And when I did start sharing, you know, the support that is out there, it was amazing. It was honestly felt like someone had just flicked that switch. And, you know, things didn't happen overnight. Things, you know, there is processes that's got to follow. But even that just initial manager support was brilliant. And I just want to talk you through a few of the things that happened once I started sharing, you know, my conditions. So the first is you have an assessment, so an occupational health assessment at work. So that's just to check, you know, is your chair set up right for it to be comfortable for you? Have you got the right equipment for you? And even for me, it was being in the right place of the building. So I suffered dizzy spells, light sensitivity, I need to be near a bathroom. So it was all those things, just making sure I was in the right space, even the colours of the walls and things, that was all all sorted for us. The next step, I had an access to work with the DWP. So a lovely lady from the DWP came out, we sat for about an hour and we went through everything, dead supportive, asked loads of questions. So from there, they said, you know, you need an electric desk. That was all sorted out. I got a reserved car parking space at work, so you know I was close to the entrance. I got flexible work, and now this is going back a couple of years when flexible working wasn't what it is today. Now we have got that more flexible working approach. So I had that chance to work at home so many days a week if my condition flared up. You know, the good thing as well, I even had access to taxis as well. I mean, I haven't needed to use that yet, but through my access to work, if I can't drive that day because of my conditions, but I still want to come into work because I do suffer from anxiety and depression, and the social side of things of being in work can sometimes just be important as your physical disabilities. I've got that taxi to get us into work. We have also got a great support network on Yammer. So Yammer, if you haven't heard of it, is, I call it a bit like Facebook for work. And we've got loads of groups on there that you can, you know, you can join. You can share your story, or you can just listen, you can just read what's going on. But there's so many groups. I'm part of the Disability Network. There's one for fibro, there's a Women's Health Network. Anything you can think of, there's a support group there for you to join. And what is really great as well is this week it was National Inclusion Week, and I've been a part of about 18 sessions this week about inclusion. You can get involved with that, so you can run sessions. I've run 4 sessions this week. You can join the sessions. You know, there's so much support out there. So, you know, even when I started getting the support and all that support, there still is barriers that you face as well, and a lot of those barriers were down to the way I felt as well and just getting comfortable in the role. But I still had the feeling that I may not be able to progress in HMRC because of, you know, my conditions and my disabilities. And again, I was totally wrong about that as well. So I joined HMRC about 6 years ago as an AA, which is the grade at the bottom, the admin. I'm now 4 grades up. I'm a capability manager, and I sort out the learning and development for about 1,200 people. I'm also a diversity inclusion lead for one of our buildings for 3,000 people. So I manage a team with that. So, you know, there has been barriers getting at that point, but again, I think a lot of that was me holding myself back because, as you know, Morgan said, there's so many adjustments that can be made at the interview and application stage. You know, there's so much out there to support you, you know, but you just need to open yourself up to them as well. Let's say a couple of barriers in between, but I've completed an apprenticeship last year, so an HR apprenticeship. Again, that was through an outside provider, but they give you reasonable adjustments. They gave us more time, they gave us support, and I'm just in the middle of doing now a level 6 qualification with the support, which I really didn't think I would get at the beginning of my journey with HMRC. So all I want to say to people out there, you know, HMRC is a brilliant place to work. Do not be scared about ticking that disability confident box at the beginning. Don't be scared about sharing your story, because, you know, the support is out there. And, you know, if you want to come in and you just want to do your job and you're happy with that, they'll support you doing that. But if you want a career, you know, the options are there as well.
Anne-Marie, what a transformational story. For someone who's gone to complete and utter fear and anxiety and feeling daunted about discussing or sharing or even bringing up any of your conditions, all because of that horrible previous experience that you've had, you know, with that other employer. I bet you that employer would love to have you back right now, because look where you are. I bet you wouldn't go back there. Can you tell us or share with us the importance of being your own self-advocate? Because you are a perfect example of that. How important is that, to know your rights, know what accommodations you can ask for and receive?
Yeah, definitely. You're the only person that knows exactly what you need. Nobody else can tell you that. So it is really important to share with your manager, to share with the workforce what you need. I could say to my manager, right, I've got fibromyalgia, but as we all know, that affects different individuals in different ways as well. So, I can't expect my manager just to go online, read a leaflet and know what I need. So really, know yourself. Don't be scared to ask for anything. Don't be scared to know, like, say you need that support. There is nothing wrong with that. So know what you need. Don't be scared to speak up and just advocate yourself, really trust in yourself.
Excellent. Thank you, Anne-Marie. And I can see too in our chat box, I think that Ian may have popped up the Disability Matters, how we can support you during your selection process. So there's a fabulous link there for anybody who really wants a little more insight into how you can be supported should you want to apply for a myriad of those fantastic opportunities, right, Morgan? All those diverse opportunities and roles. Anne-Marie, thank you very much for sharing your story, and it's lovely. And I wish you all the very best and much success, continued success with HMRC. Morgan, can I come back to you? I'm going to apply to HMRC today, right? I've seen one of those fabulous jobs on the Even Break job site. How can I make my application stand out?
So I think the one thing I see quite a lot, me and the team see it quite often, is when candidates don't really make it clear what they bring to the role. So I think the first piece of advice I'd give is to tailor the application to the role. And I know sometimes when you're applying for jobs, it can be quite frustrating if you apply for a number of different jobs and there's a certain time investment that you have to make and you think, it's easy to just copy this bit and that bit. But the reason that we ask for what we call essential criteria and desirable criteria is because that's what we're looking for. And it's very important to make it clear in your CV what your skills are and the roles that you've covered, but also anything that you've delivered. And also in a statement of suitability or indeed an answer to any of the questions, making it clear that you A, answer that question directly, but B, also making it clear that that what you bring to the job is there. So sometimes it's nice to throw in inspirational quotes and other stuff, but unfortunately that just wastes word count. And sometimes it can be quite disappointing when you see a candidate who's kind of wasted a lot of the space, either doing an extension of the CV, they kind of repeat what we already have, or they kind of add a few quotes in, basically telling you corporate cliches like, I'm a really hard worker, do X, Y, and Z. That goes without saying, but what do you bring to the role? What does that look like in practice? So if you're applying for a role that involves delivering a certain outcome, what do you think that outcome would look like? And what do you think good looks like? What do you feel that your skills would bring to that and making that outcome successful? Do a little bit of research about the business area that you're working in. There is a wealth of stuff available on Even Break, but also on Google and on the HMRC and gov.uk websites, etc., where you can just find out just small snippets of information about HMRC. We've got strategic objectives. You might be able to link some of the things you're writing with the strategic objectives to show you have the understanding of the organisation. Recently, since the COVID pandemic started, we've seen the number of applications within the public sector significantly increase, and we're at a lower point than we were last May and June were like the real high points, and then we saw it peak again in sort of October, November time. But we're still a lot higher than we were ever before 2020. And so sometimes we can get literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of applications for a role, and therefore it's important that your CV stands out. One thing I will say, or CV or application stands out. One thing I will say is that we don't use augmented software to search for CVs. So I know a lot of organisations do that, and obviously the augmented software is only as useful as the artificial intelligence that's programming it, and sometimes there's workarounds where people say you can add random bits of text and put it in white and that will trick the computer. We don't do that. There's obviously benefits and disadvantages of doing and not doing that, but we feel it's better to have that personal touch related to the individuals who actually know the role, and therefore your application can be considered properly and wholly, not just tossed out because the computer says no because it doesn't recognise the format or because it doesn't recognise what you've put, which is why we use the Civil Service Jobs platform, which ensures that there's a strict format that you have to follow.
Yeah, that's really interesting because, you know, the majority of organizations, even you know, small to medium-sized businesses, they're all using that ATS bot, you know, to sift through applications. So that's pretty unique that HMRC doesn't actually do that. Have you got any other tips? You know, top 2 or 3 tips with regards to making that application as relevant as possible. I know that there are some techniques out there like STAR and PAR. I mean, you know, how important is it to demonstrate and provide an example to back up why you're a suitable candidate for that role?
Yeah, that's a good point. So when we talk about things like STAR, so that's situation, task, action, result, so it's making it clear what you've done. My advice is always, if that works for you, put it in, but it doesn't necessarily have to be in a certain format. As long as you're making it clear what you bring for the role and backing up with credible examples, therefore, you know, almost sort of proving that you've done what you're saying you've done, not just saying it. And that's quite easy to do by giving that small example, by saying, and I led this piece of work, I worked on that piece of work. Then that is what we sort of look for. We don't prescribe a certain format deliberately, because otherwise when you start prescribing a format, it becomes a competition as who can write the best application, or not the best, but who can write it the most appropriately, or who can write it in a way that the interviewer or the candidate or the panel want to see. So I'd always disadvise against following any format or any kind of, oh, if you do this, this is definitely going to get you an interview in terms of the format. As long as you include all the relevant information that we're looking for, as long as you've read the job description and you're clear, you know, what we're looking for and what you bring to that, then that will put you in a good stead to getting through the initial SIF stage and into the interview stage. And likewise at the interview stage, make it clear that you know what you bring to that role. So when you're asked a question, if it's a strength-based question, the strength-based question is designed to put you on the spot. Give that honest and open answer. Don't try to over-rehearse it, because you'll be answering a question that you haven't been asked. And also back up what you're saying with an example. It could be a tiny little example. It doesn't necessarily have to be work-related example. I remember a few years ago I was interviewing someone and they talked about landscaping their garden as a personal project, and that was how they exemplified project management. And that's fine. You know, it's not about, you know, comparing different examples. It's about comparing the process and comparing the outcome and saying that person understands the planning that's involved and that person understands what's required of them.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for sharing that. What I wanted to do now was I wanted to bring Ian back in. Ian, I hope you're still there. You are. Okay. So this is, I suppose, to Ian and Kulvinder. What support can I expect once I start at HMRC? And what can you tell me about potential career progression? Kulvinder, would you like to start first, and then maybe Ian?
Yeah, so I'll start off first. Rosa, thanks. So yeah, and I think we've been trying to answer some of the things in the chat facility as well about help and support that individuals can expect from HMRC. I've been very fortunate to work in the civil service for many years now in HMRC, but also other government departments. And with the policies that we have in HMRC, in civil service, the flexible working, I always think we are, you know, in the civil service, we're the Rolls Royce of employees, in that we really do support people who work in our organisations. And for things like have come up already, things like workplace adjustments and reasonable adjustments. Over the past year and a half, we've been working as an HR team, as a project team, to really try and understand what problems colleagues are facing when they need to have an adjustments, whether or not they're being recruited in or whether or not they're currently working in our organisation. So we've done a lot of research with our staff about how we can streamline that process to make it easier for them, to make it quicker for them and more responsive to them. We've also been looking at the culture so that there is some similarity of adjustments as well, and it's unfair that if one person gets an adjustment, another person doesn't. So we'll have to ensure that consistency happens across the board for reasonable adjustments, workplace adjustments. And we've also been doing managers training. So we recognise as part of a big program of work that we've been doing in HMRC about respecting respect at work, and that program of work we've been doing is that the culture needed to change, and we've been doing a lot of managers training sessions to support managers about their role as a manager in supporting colleagues, disabled colleagues, if they need adjustments, what they need to do, what the process is, where they get support as well. And we have got a very active and big HR team who provide expert advice to colleagues and to managers about what they need if they are making an adjustments, or if it is about maybe time off work, or even if that's on a permanent basis or a temporary basis. So the policies, the flexible working conditions, but also the hard and soft adjustments. So maybe it's the technology, maybe it's about adjustments to your working pattern, are really important to us as an organisation. And I think really what I would want to just to finally say as well is that as an organisation, we have got over 3,000 people who use assisted technology in our organisation. So things like JAWS, Dragon, and we've also got in our technology directorate a support team who support managers and support individuals about how to use that technology, how to improve that technology as well if you use assisted technology. So a range of things that we can offer to support disabled people in the organisation. I'd maybe just ask if Kulvinder's got anything to add on that from your experience.
Yes, so we work very closely with the digital team, don't we? And there's also training provided, learning provided to be able to learn how to use that assistive technology, which is excellent. And with just engagement and support with regard to your own development, what we really love is that once you join HMRC, there is a huge amount of learning. We have mandatory learning to do, and we have specific job role learning as well. So you will be trained in the types of work that you want to do, and you will have career conversations throughout your annual year, and with that you'll have developmental conversations with regard to how you want to develop, what you want to do, and whether that's the business stream that you see your progression in, and what types of learning are suitable for your development. And some of that's been promoted through our Disability Awareness Week and National Inclusion Week as well. So I would really encourage anybody who wants to join HMRC to think about the variety of careers that are available and about the learning that will also take place as your own continuous professional development once you join. So lots to look forward to.
Fantastic. And it's great to see the investment that you put in with, your leadership and your management, that they are given that knowledge and that support through disability awareness training, because that's how they can best support their employees directly, is to be much more aware and mindful of an individual's disability and what that might mean. It's so critical, isn't it, Ian?
It is, and I think that commitment is something that we recognise through the Respect at Work programme, and bringing in Laura White, an external HR director, a couple of years back to look at HMRC to see how we can improve. Was that an investment that we took seriously and wanted to have not over a short period of time, but over a longer period of time? And certainly from the work that we've been doing on workplace adjustments and working with a lot of senior leaders in our organisation. So Daljit Rihal is the disability champion, is totally committed to changing that culture longer term, so that we do improve the lived experience of disabled people in HMRC.
Great. I'd like to, if you all don't mind, go to our Q&A, because there is a couple of questions here. So I'm going to get started. This is from Matthew. Matthew, thank you for asking this question. How do the HMRC recruitment or organisation deal with hidden disabilities, for example, dyslexia? Now, I know that we spoke earlier a little bit to neurodiversity, but for example, someone has a hidden disability, i.e. dyslexia. So how would they be supported? Can we look at this both from the recruitment process and also whilst they're in the job? So who would like to take that? Morgan, would you like to start off if we were to talk about it initially from the hiring perspective?
Yes, yeah, I will do, yeah. So like I mentioned earlier on, I don't want to give a clear answer because it really depends on what the reasonable adjustments are. So therefore, I don't want to lead anyone down the path to think, oh, we wouldn't be able to support this type of situation or that type of situation. But in terms of a hidden disability such as dyslexia, there's all sorts of software that we can provide access to via a portal so that someone can perhaps vocalize an application rather than having to type it if need be. The same with an interview as well. We can provide the option of, I mean, at the minute it's only video interviews because of the COVID pandemic, but as we move to a hybrid working approach, there'll be a combination of video interviews whereby someone might be able to see a script that will help with the dyslexia or dyspraxia, or whichever disability they have, but also be able to utilize software that will enable them to perform their best without having to worry about any kind of issues that will impact their ability. So again, it's not a difficult question to answer. It's a very easy question to answer, but it's difficult in terms of what exact support we give, because we basically consider as much as possible, and it should not be an issue or barrier. I mean, it isn't a barrier to applying at all. And as long as you request a reasonable adjustment, we are able to support that. And it goes back to what Anne-Marie said about making sure that you request that support, then we know where we can target that support.
Absolutely. And then, of course, when one's in the workplace, there are support systems like Access to Work, as well as what an employer can also offer directly, to that individual once they've started. Again, like assistive technology, etc. Does anybody else want to answer that before we move on to the next question? We all good?
Yeah, so I can, Rosa. So yeah, I'll start with that. So I think within HMRC, we have a disability staff network group as well. And underneath that, we have got 3 subgroups. One of them is the dyslexia, dyspraxia network group. And they've been really proactive in looking to inform the policies that we've got in HMRC, but also what learning that we need to have to educate people, but also what we need to do as an organisation and as managers to better support individuals who may need more time to do specific tasks. They may need assistive technology, as you've mentioned. So managers, really an important role that they play in working with and having a conversation with an individual about, okay, so if you have got a certain condition, how can we support you? And we may need to get occupational health people involved as well, to support the individual and support the manager about what adjustments can we make. It could be time, it could be assisted technology, it could be a whole range of things, and that's the key thing. It's unique to the individual, and we are a very receptive, inclusive employer who would want to understand what adjustments we can make.
Excellent. And again, it comes back to Anne-Marie, one needs to understand and be their own self-advocate. We have to educate ourselves and know how our needs need to be met and be able to share with their employer, these are the accommodations that I need. And sometimes they can be very simple, right?
Yeah, I think as well, I'll just come in there, the one thing as well, if you have a reasonable adjustment or you have an adjustment as well, and it's not working or it's not right for you, don't be scared, to say that as well, because it will be looked at again. The nature of some people's illnesses and conditions change as well. So again, it's all about that honesty. Be honest and, be straight with your manager, and the help will be there and the support will be there.
Fantastic. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next question. Do you use the principles of universal design? And this has come from Jessica. So universal design, the principles of universal design. Jessica, do you also just want to give us a little bit of an explanation on what universal design is, or Ian, are you able to answer that straight off?
I think I understand a little bit, so please come in, correct me, Jennifer, if it's wrong. But I think in relation to one of my previous roles in government digital services was about user-centered design. So when we design services, when we design tools and products, then the user is at the center of that. So that kind of conversation, understanding, and then how we build products, how we build prototypes and then test them before they're launched, before they go live. We have that user-centered design approach. So we build them based on the needs of the individual and not the needs of the organization. And certainly we have internal services that we have for colleagues who use internal services, things like the HR services, but also for our customers as well. That more user-centered design approach is where central government want to be, but certainly as well HMRC. And we have got a digital team who are committed to ensure that all of our services, internal services, but also external, are fully accessible at the point of design now and not at some point in the future, to reduce our technical debt.
Mm-hmm. I mean, organizations now even have their own accessibility departments, don't they? They have a whole team of designers and accessibility researchers, etc. It's a whole new space. Okay, so thank you for that, Jessica. That was an excellent question. So we've had Derry saying here, thank you. It's so good to hear the assistive technology you have and the support around is excellent. So you're getting some positive feedback back there from Derry. Do we have any other questions that anyone wants to ask? Anything else coming up?
Sorry to jump in, everyone. I'm Mohammed, one of the people working in the background here. Rosa, I think there's a few questions pending which have been marked as answered as we'll answer live. So I'm not sure if Ian or Morgan or whoever did click answer live would like to elaborate, or if you can spot them in the technically answered section but not answered.
Okay, yeah, so I'm just going through them. If you could just all bear with me. Give me a second. So I'm going into all the answered questions. So one question was, how would you accommodate a disabled person who needs to mainly work from home? Now you are returning to the office. This is my biggest working barrier. And I know Kulvinder answered that.
And I think, Rosa, just to add on to that, we have got, I think as Kulvinder's already got in the answer, that the hybrid working. So the conversation that the individual will have with the manager is really, really important, about how many days they can work in their office, whether or not it's a couple of days. And at this moment in time, within HMRC at the end of September, we are normally working 1 day a week, but it would depend entirely on the individual, and if they have got specific disability needs, how can we address those needs?
Okay, with mental health problems, it can be challenging sometimes, and we might need to have time off. Would you acknowledge the employees' needs for them to have some time off, like a mental health day or something like that?
Yes, so I think I've responded to that, haven't I, Rosa? And there's a great deal of support available. So we would want people to come in because there are supportive colleagues there. But of course, if you're needing to take time off, then of course that system is there for that individual to be able to take time off. It's very supportive. It's a very supportive environment, and to be able to make sure that there's a work-life balance as well, particularly if some of that mental health, is we don't know what can cause it, but we're certainly here to help, and we have the PAM Assist services as well. Many services that we have.
Great. Okay. And we've answered, do you use the principles of universal design? So it looks as though we have answered all the questions. So if I've missed any there, my apologies, but I think we've covered everything. That is taking us nicely to the end of our session with HMRC. Again, I just want to thank you all very much for attending. Ian, Morgan, Anne-Marie, Kulvinder, and I know we've had some people maybe in the background too helping us out. From my perspective, I'd like to say a big thank you to Mohammed and to Toby. and obviously to Anna and Tara and Carleen for supporting us today. Again, thank you to everyone at HMRC for joining us. And thank you everyone out there for also joining us today. I hope you feel that all your questions have been answered. And we look forward to seeing you at our next Meet the Employer session. And don't forget, we've got lots of other events on as well. We have How to Succeed interview and how to write a successful job application, all coming up in the next week or two. So all these events are free. Don't forget to go online and just register for those events or those future Meet the Employers. Thank you again, everyone, for joining. Have a fabulous day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.